The Democratic Party faces a voter registration crisis. That's the new headline from the New York Times, with plenty of data to back it up. The Times reports that of the 30 states that track voter registration by political party, Democrats lost ground to Republicans in every single one between the 2020 and 2024 elections. And often they lost it by a lot. That four-year swing toward Republicans adds up to 4.5 million voters, a deep political hole that could take years for Democrats to climb out of. And this decline is happening across the board. According to the Times still, Democrats are losing ground with new voters. For the first time since 2018, more new voters nationwide chose to be Republicans than Democrats last year, adding that they're losing ground in battleground states like North Carolina, where Republicans erased roughly 95% of the registration advantage that Democrats held in the fall of 2020. Democrats are also losing ground with young voters. In 2018, nearly two-thirds of new registrants under 45 who had picked one of the two major parties were Democrats. In 2024, Republicans were an outright majority. And the gender gap is also a growing problem for Democrats. The Times analysis shows the Republican strength among men is far outpacing the Democratic edge with women. Joining us now, Democratic Congressman Joe Morelle of New York. He's the ranking member of the Committee on House Administration. Congressman, I want to start there with all of this new data in the Times and get your reaction to this analysis that shows your party hemorrhaging voters from several different demographics.
Well, good morning. Thanks for having me. I think it's certainly something you can't ignore. I think for some time now, people in the party have ignored the trends. I thought the article did a great job of identifying the problem, and you have to acknowledge the problem before you can begin to address it. I know that what I'm doing here back in Rochester is really trying to organize people, trying to get them to knock on doors and visit with community and talk to people and really engage in conversation about what voters have expectations around, what things they're concerned about. Sometimes, we become convinced that the things we care about is what everyone cares about. And sometimes that's not the case. So we really have to do a much better job in a very granular way, in a literally door by door way. And we're organizing here in Rochester. I've literally spent every waking moment meeting with groups in the community, people of all political persuasions and stripes, to talk to them, engage with them in what they see happening. And there are real concerns about authoritarianism, but there are equally concerns about, am I going to have health care? Am I going to be able to feed my family? Are the price of goods too high? And those are the things that I think we need to address.
I think affordability is the thing that comes up in almost every single interview that I do, Republican or Democratic member that I'm talking to. And so I do think that you're seizing on something there. But when I read this Times analysis, to me, it all seems systemic. Do you think that these trends are reversible? And where is the part of the party that needs to be running point on this? Because over at the DNC, the chair, Ken Martin, says this is a crisis. It's a five-alarm fire. Are they the ones who have to start to fix it? What does that look like?
No, first of all, yes, of course it's reversible. I mean, I think we've seen trends throughout history where movements can change people and the way they view them, and parties change in response to the kind of data that we're seeing, right? I mean, if you don't respond to it, that would be malpractice. But I don't think, and I think it can be done at the national level. They certainly have to focus on it. But this has to be done community by community. I think every member of Congress, every member of the state legislature who cares about this, they need to be working on organizing people. What I hear, Allie, at events that I go to, and I was at several yesterday, keep hearing the same thing. What can we do? And I remind people, look, there are a number of things you can do. You can volunteer. You can engage in with civic groups and organizations. You can join your political party locally and go out and knock on doors. We've been, believe it or not, hosting like a summer camp over the last several weeks. People had agreed to 7 weeks, 2 hours every Saturday morning to learn how to engage people in political activity. We've been full every week. It's been astonishing. And we've even engaged in field trips where people are going out and knocking on doors and talking to neighbors, and they're loving it. But they're also showing up at volunteer activities, saying to people, what can we do to help community? So it has to be done literally at the block level. We're not going to re-engage with people by doing simply a national effort. Yes, I appreciate the party chair at the national level saying we have to do it, But this has to get done literally on every block, with every neighbor, with every civic group, with every volunteer group. We need to keep talking about people, not only about the threats that we face as Americans, but all the good things that Democrats believe in that will elevate the lives of average Americans.
You know, we've also seen Democrats, I think, change their tactics. We started the show talking about the way that Gavin Newsom is sort of setting a new tone for pushback in California. But New York is another one of those states that's responding to Texas's redistricting efforts with some pushes of their own from Kathy Hochul, the governor there. Can you talk about the latest that New Yorkers should expect to see on that front, and that anyone who's watching this redistricting battle should look for?
Yeah, first of all, I'm so grateful to the governor, who's a longtime friend and has been really working incredibly hard at New York at rebuilding and elevating people and talking to people about the things they care about. Redistricting is certainly on the mind of New Yorkers. I mean, I really can't have a conversation in community anymore without people raising what's happened in Texas and what is being threatened in other places. So we're going to do whatever we can to push back. We have some limitations in New York. We do believe in independent redistricting, but we're also not going to fight with one hand tied behind our back.
Yeah, that's also the rationale that they're using in California, where they do also have independent redistricting commissions, and they're trying to override that in the short term to change their maps now in reaction to Texas. The last thing I want to get you on, though, is President Trump's renewed quest to end mail-in voting. You're the ranking member of the House Admin Committee. You've got jurisdiction over federal election issues. What should people know when they hear Trump talk about this latest push here? What can he do? What can't he do?
Well, first of all, I feel like Dorothy, who hit her head and woke up in the land of Oz. I can't imagine what the president is talking about. Mail-in voting has been secure and safe and used in many states for decades without incident. There is no fraud. There's no recorded fraud. But the president often talks about things with certainty for which there is no evidence. You know, he could convince people in the MAGA movement that UFOs routinely land in American cities and walk among us, and that he knows this for certain without any evidence. The truth is, mail-in ballots are secure. It would be virtually impossible to count 200 million American votes in an evening and give results on election night. The president is not a serious person. I think we know that. The people around him are not serious. These are 50 different elections, by the way. The presidential election is conducted by the states. It has always been an election by the 50 states, which is why we have the Electoral College. The president doesn't know what he's talking about, has no idea the need to do this. But we're going to have to continue to push back, because when you're taking election advice from Vladimir Putin, I think people in America ought to seriously question the sanity of the president.
And I do think that that connection, the fact that the president met with Putin in Alaska and then said, we talked about this, and now I think I might do something on it, that connection is a really important piece as we talk about this story going forward. We'll leave it there for now. Democratic Congressman Joe Morelle of New York. We'll see you back here in Washington in just a few weeks. Thank you for coming on in the meantime.